everybody. I thought I would start filming a new tutorial today on the Snowflake Peekaboo cup that has the little metallic vinyl offset. For once I thought, and I have glitter on my face. Of course, everybody that works with glitter always has glitter on their face. I thought I would give you guys a supply list this time ahead of time. So let me just show you what you're going to need, and then you can be ready to work. So basically what I did with this one was you need 2 colors of spray paint. I used here the Aqua Satin from Rustoleum. Usually I use Rustoleum paint. I've tried Krylon a few times and it does not like me very much. So. And then just any white. This is a primer, but you could use just a white spray paint also. Either one works fine. So those are the 2 colors of paint you need. And then for the cup, you can use whatever cup you want, but in this tutorial I used the 30-ounce traditional with a handle. You can find these in a few places. This one comes from Griffin Blanks. 12 Bees Custom Designs also carries them. So I can add the link to both of those places in the comments when the tutorial is over, if you would like to go search for these, because a lot of people have been really wanting to find these. So, oh, and well, let me just go on and tell you, I spray painted this one. It's ready for its coat of glitter, so we'll do those first. So prep your cup, spray paint your cup with this aqua color. Okay, and then we'll move on to the next step. So we've got our 30-ounce traditional with the handle, Griffin Blanks or 12 Bees Custom Designs, Satin, Aqua, Rustoleum, and then just a white Rustoleum. Now the glitters that you're going to need. The glitters are from Glitterful, www.glitterful.com. I'll link that in the comments. Also, I love their glitter. I have a lot of their glitter. It's amazing, has amazing coverage and amazing sparkle, so I highly recommend them. The 2 glitters that we're going to use for this one, like I said, are from them, are called Duke and Little Lady. So those are the only 2 glitters you're going to need. The vinyl that I used is a rose gold chrome Starcraft, and it's from 143 vinyl. Okay, so that's the vinyl you're going to need. I used the rose gold because this glitter has a pink shift to it, and I think that that rose gold kind of pulled out the pink. So that's what I went with. Of course, you could choose whatever vinyl you want, but that's what I used in this particular cup. So if you want to go ahead and order those supplies before you get to it, here you go. And here's a little tip for you when you have toilet paper rolls or paper towel rolls. Use them to put around your vinyl so they don't come unrolled. So there's your supply list, and I will be back with the next step in a bit. Hi guys, we're back with the next step, which is just the glittering portion. Again, I spray painted my 30-ounce traditional with a handle with the Rustoleum Aqua. And what I do usually before I glitter my cups, even if I do it on the turner, today I'm just doing it here so that you can see it a little bit better. It's a little dark in my room. I epoxy it with about 5 mLs. This one has probably closer to 10 because it's chunky glitter and it will help the glitter stick a little better. So what I did is I epoxied it with about 10 mLs, and then I hit it, put it on my turner, hit it with my torch, and let it turn for a little bit so that it gets good and tacky and it's really smooth. See, by heating it, that gets your epoxy kind of like a nice and smooth coat so that when you put the glitter on, it sticks well and you don't have any open spots. So again, I'm going to take my Duke from Glitterful. That's the only coat I'm putting on right now. I'm going to take my parchment paper to catch the extra glitter here. And then I'm just going to glitter like you normally would. Like I said, sometimes I do it on my turner, sometimes I do it by hand like this. Then I put the cup on like a drying rack or something. It depends on the mood I'm in. And today we're having rolling blackouts because it is really cold in Missouri. It's like -20. So they're turning our heat off in random times. So I'm not doing a lot of epoxying. I'm trying to keep my turners off so that my cups don't get messed up. I'm not about starting a new epoxy job right now. So I did this fairly quickly and got it off of the turner so that I could glitter it today. I'm doing a lot of mold pouring and things to keep myself busy. People always ask me about the handle. How do you do the handle? How do you epoxy the handle? How do you glitter the handle? You just have to pay extra attention to it as far as glittering it and painting it. Make sure you get it covered, you know, epoxying it. But it works the same. The epoxy levels out the same. That's all the same. So don't be afraid of handles. I always tell people that. They're a really good selling cup. So I'm just making sure I got the top of my handle covered. Just moving it around. And again, this is Duke from Glitterful. It has really, really good coverage. It's got some little fine glitter mixed in with that chunky glitter. I often don't have to do extra coats on this. Sometimes I'm really nitpicky and OCD about my glitter coverage. Their glitter is very, very good quality. Highly recommend them. Like I said, I've got probably almost every color that they have. Pretty close to it. So I'm sprinkling this on there. Now when I'm on my turner here, sometimes I will just take my cup off of the turner and just do this to get the bottom covered. If I'm on a turner like my Kraken, which has like a magnetic arm, it does not allow that. So I have to pick up the glitter by hand and kind of shove it on there, but whatever works, you know. But the Cuposaurus and the Mosbros, those both have arms that I can take off and just kind of dip it in there. I know it looks like I'm using crazy amounts, but I'm going to put this back in the bottle and reuse it. Y'all know that rule, I hope. Again, I'm taking special care under the handle, around the handle. Sometimes the handles have to get done a couple times because you notice you missed a little spot here and there. It's fine, just take your time with it. It's a little extra work, but people really like the handles. Now, because I used the 10 mLs instead of 5 mLs, first of all, this glitter's laying pretty flat. I go around and double check my corners here. But, you know, in areas like on the bottom, here you can still see a couple pieces sticking up there. And you don't want it to dry that way, so I'm going to show you all this. Some of you may already know this information, but I'm going to tell you anyway. Let me go around one more time. See if I have any open spots that I feel might need some more. Looks pretty good, beautiful and shiny to me. So I'm gonna just stick this right here for a minute off to the side. And I'm gonna take this, all this beautiful Duke and put it back in the bottle because I don't want to waste that. All right. Now, like I said, this glitter it's pretty flat right now. It's laying pretty flat, but I do have my areas, you know, like on my handle where it's a little bit shardy and stuff. So I'm going to take this parchment paper. You can do two different things. You can wrap it up, just wrap it around. I kind of pat it because, especially with this shape, if it was a skinny, I would say it's super easy to just wrap it, the paper around and then unwrap it. But since this is like a curve and it's a traditional curve and it's got like all these dips and stuff in it, I'm just going to take a little piece like this and I'm going to go around and I'm going to pat that parchment paper on the glitter so that it lays flat. So whenever you're working with chunky and the epoxy method, it's the one thing about the Mod Podge with the chunky, it will lay flat a little bit if you use this with Mod Podge, but with epoxy, this method works really, really well to get that chunky to lay flat. So I really, if you're using chunky to just glitter a whole cup, I would advise epoxy method. Because Mod Podge dries so quickly. You have time to work with epoxy to get this glitter to lay flat. So I'm pushing my bottom. People also ask me all the time, how do you get your bottom so smooth? Well, here is an important step. You take your time, you push that glitter down with that paper. And you get the flat edge. You see, I still see a couple there, so I'm going to go back. You know, it's epoxy. It's going to take a while to set, so you have lots of time. Just take a look at it and see what you don't like. And I've got a piece here. Take that time now, then later on. You don't have to deal with breaking out the X-Acto. And now another thing I have noticed with chunkies, especially if it has an opal mix in it, even if you do this and you pat it down, if it has those opal pieces in it, after you heat them, those opal pieces are going to shrivel up and pop right back out. I mean, that's not a big deal. Later on, you can sand them down, or you can just alcohol your cup the first time until they get covered. So don't heat it, just spritz it with alcohol. And that will keep those pieces from, it depends on what mood I'm in. If I don't care, and I'm like, whatever, I'm gonna have to sand this cup anyway, then I don't worry about it. Now, most likely I will go back and do this handle again, just because I said with the handles, I like to make sure I have good coverage. This does have pretty good coverage. I will probably go back and glitter it one more time because of the corners and everything. And I'm just taking my paper and I'm pushing it on the edges, especially where I see kind of those sharp pieces coming out. Handle's a little more work, like I said, but it's worth it. I might even take my finger there. There we go. Working just fine. I mean, really, honestly, you could use your finger if you wanted to. You're just going to end up with glitter all over it. But what else is new when you work with glitter? Glitter gets everywhere. And I'm going to stick my finger right up in this little crack. I have a nail, so I'm just going to use my nail. But if you don't, you could use it like a toothpick or something. And I'm just kind of squishing that glitter that got all bunched up in there down a little bit. Take a look. I look at it from the side. Like I see anything spinning around. I'm a little OCD, y'all, so you're gonna be like, why is this woman taking like 5 hours to push her glitter down? It's just because I'm crazy that way. You don't have to take this long. I'm just very nitpicky about it. Okay, now you have these pieces on the ends. You don't want those to dry that way either. So you're going to take your finger and run it around the edge. Push, because what it will do is it will push those pieces back. And you want that. Now with this one, it's not, you don't need to worry about this edge so much, like it being perfectly covered, because you're going to cover it in paint anyway. It's a Peekaboo. So you don't need to stress about that edge being perfect. So here we are. Okay, we've got this glittered with some Duke, and we've got that Aqua base, Rustoleum Aqua base. We patted it down. I'm going to let it dry. Then I'll probably add a second coat to the handle, and then I'll come back and show you before I start epoxying it until it's smooth. That would be the step after that. Hi there, just wanted to come back and update you about what's going on now. I did go in, by the way, and add another coat of glitter on that handle just to make sure that the sides were all covered the way that I liked them. Then what I did was I had 3 coats of epoxy on the cup. I'm kind of iffy on flood coats. I know some people love them, but it seems like every time I flood coat something, which if you don't know what flood coating is, it's where you use like pretty much rule of thumb. People are like, if you have a 20 ounce, you use 20 mLs of epoxy. Well, if you're flood coating something, you would use like 30 mLs of epoxy or 35 mLs of epoxy to, that way it's supposed to coat over chunky glitter once without having to do it again. It seems like every time I flood coat, when I heat set epoxy with my torch to pop the bubbles, I lose a lot of epoxy and I really end up putting more on there anyway. So basically what I do is just 3 coats of like the normal amount. So I did 3 coats of, this is a 30 ounce, so I did about 30 mLs. It's probably between 20 and 30 mLs each time. And then I am to the point now, the second coat, after the second coat, I went back with a rough sandbar block and kind of got rid of like these edge pieces on the top. So I sanded around there with like a rougher sand block. And on the handle, like on the edges with those little pieces. And then anything where I felt with my hand, and if I felt anything popping out, I took my sand block and scuffed it away. Then I went back with the finer sand block and went over it so that it was smooth. And then after that, I did one more, my third coat, and now I'm just kind of fine-tuning it because I want to make sure with the Peekaboo, you want to make sure that your final layer of epoxy before you paint is as smooth as you can get it, because that spray paint is going to show every single little bump and flaw on your cup. So again, I did 2 coats of epoxy, then I came in with my rough sand block and just kind of did the top, and then did any little bumps that were popping up here, and then on the bottom I did my bottom, and then I added 1 more thin coat, and now I'm just going back and making sure it's smooth this way, like when you feel it, because you will be able to see it. If it's not, you'll see the ridges and stuff when you spray paint it. So I'm just going back, I just went back here and I sanded it the best I could. Underneath the handle is kind of iffy to get to, so I don't really worry about that. But now I'm going to add 1 last thin coat, and then I'll be ready for the spray paint part, which I will record for you when I get back. Hi guys, so we're back. I have epoxied my cup and come back. I told you I added the extra little bit of glitter on the handle, smoothed it out, added that last little thin coat. I still have a few sanding marks right here and here. I had a couple of, like, sometimes you'll get like a little tiny little piece sticking up there, I just hit it with the sanding block, and I'm just going to go ahead and go on to the next step, because once you epoxy over it, it's going to go clear anyway. And if it gets covered by vinyl, it doesn't matter. So on this last step before I start decaling for the Peekaboo, I just kind of do that. I run my finger over, and if I feel something, I just sand it a little bit. No big deal. Okay, so we are to the Peekaboo part. Kind of going to explain it a little bit. I am going to try to add these snowflakes to my store on Etsy. It is the Glittery Bohemian, and I sell cut files in that store. So what I did is, again, I took my rose gold chrome that I got from 143 Vinyl. What I did is I just found the easiest thing to do is to find a image of a snowflake that has an outline. And then if you know how to create your own SVGs, you can do it that way, and that way you have an automatic offset. If not, you can find any snowflake that you like that's solid, and you can create an offset in Inkscape. And if you don't know how to do that, I will be doing a tutorial on how to create an offset shortly. It's kind of hard to see because of the reflection, but I go ahead and cut the whole thing. So this is just a snowflake with an outline that I made into an SVG. And I'll add, if you really want these particular snowflakes, I'll add these to the store, and you can get them, and I'll add the sizes in the tutorial for you. Okay, so I just printed it out on the vinyl, and I've got, let's see, 4 different ones here. So what I'm going to do is start weeding them, but I weed them in a particular way. Okay, so I'm not even really probably going to use a tool here, but I'm going to peel this back. My favorite weeding tool of all time, which is always missing, is a dental pick. I hardly ever use anything else. Sometimes I use my tweezers, and I'm kind of picky with those too. I can show you those. I like the Famore brand. They're like really pointy on the top. So they're really good to grab things. My camera's not, there you go. Really good to grab things and weed little pieces out. And then my third favorite is my pin pen. Super easy to make. You just buy some mechanical pencils, empty it out, and buy a pin that's the same size. This one's a 0.7. Buy a 0.7 pin, stick it in there, click, click, click. There you go. So I use those 3 things usually to weed, but most of the time it's this dental pick. So I'll take you down here, and we'll do the first one. Although sometimes, let me do this too. This is a little hint. If I've got extra, because I make some phone grips, and a lot of those phone grips, it's a small amount of vinyl. So if I see a big hunk like that, I will cut it off and put it to the side, and I put it in my scraps. So let me do that first. Then I'm just going to peel this. A lot of times I just stick my finger. If it's a big piece like that, I'll just stick my finger in here and pull it. I mean, this part's pretty straightforward, pretty sure. We don't need a lesson in weeding here. But now what I do a lot is I will put my paper upside down like this with the sticky side up, and that's what I stick my pieces to. I've tried, you know, the lint roller. I do that occasionally, but a lot of times I just do this, and it works out just fine. And then I'll stick that big piece in the trash when I'm done with it. So now what you want to do here is you're going to go in and get these little middle pieces, and I just do that. Boom. There it is. Sticks there. I don't have to deal with it. And it's all one piece. So I'm going to weed these out because I do not need them. A little pick. There we go. And I'm going to weed out. I have to think about this now, y'all. I don't want to mess it up. Let's see. Okay, what I am going to do now, I'm left with this. I need the part that I'm going to peel away for the peekaboo. So what I have to do is take off this piece. Now I can do this a couple of different ways. What I normally do is just peel it by hand and put it on the cup by hand like a sticker. Sometimes I'll put it on a piece of tape if I feel like it. But basically you want to take this middle part out and save this outline for later. That's going to be your offset for when the peekaboo part is done and you've epoxied it. Okay, so I'm going to be careful with this. I mean, it doesn't have to be perfect because this is the peekaboo part, but I'm going to pick this up with my pen, just a little piece. And I want to be careful not to mess that offset up too when you're peeling at it. This does get a little finicky sometimes with all these nooks and crannies, so I just take my time. Sometimes some of these detail cups are not for the meek, you know, you have to have patience. But then, you know, people have patience for different things. And then I'm taking my dental pick here. I know it's hard to see. And I just run it underneath. It's like underneath. And it helps me kind of pull up the rest of that one. Just running it under. Now, if you don't hold these, they're going to go back down on you. So you do need to, if you're going to do this by hand, you do need to kind of hold them up. But just throw that pick underneath. It's hard to tell because I'm holding it this way. Underneath here, you see how I've got it underneath, and then it's just prying it up. And the further you get, it will, the more of these little snowflake arms that you get up there, the easier it gets. We're halfway done. Okay. And this is the largest of the ones. Pretty much the most detailed also. I try not, you're not going to want to get for the offsets a crazy detailed one. That's what I did for my smaller one that I cut in like all vinyl with no offset. You could pick a fancy one for that. I wouldn't suggest picking a highly detailed one for this offset because it's going to be a mess. You will be peeling it forever. Okay, so first I've got this, okay? So I've got my outline here. And then I'm going to take this up here. Okay, now I have this just on a little arm here so that I can work better with it. I'm going to take it. I'm just going to take this and place it where I want it, kind of. And it's hard to recreate it exactly, but I kind of like the first one to be kind of like as if you were holding the front of the cup and it was, you know, I want to look at it and make sure it's straight. And with your piece of vinyl that you are going to use for your peekaboo, you don't have to be too picky about it having wrinkles in it, but you do want to make sure that it's down there pretty well. So what I do is I take this is like 2 pieces of transfer tape stuck together, and I just put that over it so it doesn't get scuffed. That's just a habit of mine. I do that when I do my regular vinyl that doesn't get peeled off. But then I'm going to put this over this and I'm going to rub it down just to make sure the edges are down. Like, I'm not really worried about wrinkles in the design right now because that doesn't matter. But you do want to make sure those edges are down so you have crisp lines on your peekaboo. Okay, so I have this one down here, but I'm missing a little piece. That's why I didn't weed the whole thing in the middle. So I am going to want to put this little circle in here. I'll make sure you have all the parts as well. I don't think that's on there right. I like to talk to myself, so turn that a little bit. Okay, now I'm gonna just run my squeegee over that really fast. Okay, so here we go. I've got my first Peekaboo, and I know, yeah, you're using nice vinyl for this Peekaboo, but this is the easiest way to do it. Just cut the whole thing at once, because if you're cutting, you're using twice as much vinyl, because you still have to use this large of a piece to cut the outline. So you might as well just use the whole thing. Use this part for the Peekaboo, even though it's nice vinyl, and then use the outline for your offset when you're done. So I'm going to put this off to the side for when I'm to the offset portion. Okay, so I'm going to put this one off to the side and go to my next one. Let's see here. Fun part's trying to remember where I had them. This little guy here. Now I have a big old hunk on this one I want to not waste. So I'm going to cut around this a little bit. Like I said, cut around these pieces so you don't waste it. This one had a little scuff in it, so I ended up using it for a smaller one. Okay, same thing. So here, I'll do this right next to the camera. This one's super easy. I'm going to take the outside off. I'll stick this right to my big piece here that's still sitting here. Okay, now this one is a little more complicated. You don't have to do any of the weeding of the inside. I don't like to do that until I look at it and figure it out. So this one, I'm just going to do the outside. And then I'm going to take the sticker from this next part. I'm going to leave the outline. This one, I'll just set it on the cup and do it for you. Back to my dental pick. Love it. Using that pick to pull up the vinyl. And really with this part, it doesn't even matter if it has a rip. Who cares? Just push it back down as long as there's no hole there and your Peekaboo gets set. Doesn't matter what it looks like, you know. Okay. Underneath. I'm just underneath and pulling as I go along. I'm sure I have odd ways of weeding. This one, of course, I don't weed everything this way, but this particular cup, this is the kind of the easiest way to accomplish it without wasting a lot of vinyl. This one pretty much pulls after you get most of it up. All right, I'm going to turn this one. This way. I want to do it this way. I'm just kind of putting it where I think it looks good. Gonna try and remember where I put them last time. Again, don't have to worry about it being perfectly perfect. Okay. This design is one of the more difficult ones to match up the offset with, but I'm going to use the method that I use later on. It's really not a big deal. You just have to have a little patience. And a little soapy water, if you know what I'm saying. All right, so I'm scraping over that one. Got that one down, but I need to take a look at my design because I've got pieces missing. Okay, I need to put in these little tiny pieces here. So I'm going to take these little pieces here, you see, and place those inside the design. This one gets a little tricky, but I kind of look at it when I'm placing it. This one's a little low. That gives me an idea of where it needs to be. I like to use my tweezers for this part. This is a tweezer assignment. Okay. Sometimes these little guys are a lot of fun. But when you want some details in a peekaboo, it's kind of part of the job description. See, I'm just placing. I don't know, it's kind of hard to see in this reflection here. Just placing those guys in there. Yeah, it might be a little easier to see. So I usually pick these up with my weeding pin, and then I use my tweezers to place it. Makes it a little easier. Sometimes they don't want to come up. And you just work your way around patiently. Okay, so I have this on here ready to go. I'm going to just stick this, again, 2 sticky pieces of transfer tape stuck together, and then I also use these to, if I have something that's really complicated, to layer vinyl, because you can stick your vinyl, your edge, off to the side and use this as a window to see what it looks like, and then pull this out and lay it down. If you've never seen that hack before, it's great. So I'm going to put this one, I have my offset for this one. I'm going to put it off to the side, and then we're going to move on to the next one. And I've got 2 of these guys left. This guy was over here. Yeah. Okay. I'm going to cut my extra piece off. A little stack of scraps over there. Again, same boring process here. Just peel it off. See, I've still got this same, like, big old piece hunk that I pulled off the first one, and it's all sticking together. So I don't have to pick up, like, little tiny pieces. So that's kind of how I do it. This one's super simple. You just peel the middle out, just like we did sort of with the first one. The first one needed a little bit more work. Come on, little guy. Of course, this one's the simplest one. It doesn't want to come out. Isn't that the way? And when I place these, I try not to have them like at the same level, so that there's some kind of interest going on. So like when I look at this one, I'm not going to place it at the same exact level. It's a little smaller than the first one we did. So I'm going to want to place it a little bit lower, so it doesn't look completely even, and I'm pretty OCD. I like things to be neat and even, but with this look, you kind of want some interest with your eyes. And if you make everything even, it kind of makes it a little dull for your eyes. So I like to make it just a little bit off. Okay, this one's already almost off, so I'm just going to peel this back. There we go. Okay. Now, this guy here, I'm just going to crank this around. I have it about here. I'm just going to put my finger on the cup as I run it around. Real technical here. I want it a little lower than that, so maybe I'll start down here. It just gives you some interest. That's all. And then since I'm laying this by hand, I'm going to go slow here. I don't want to stick it all down at once, so we'll have a mess. It's really not that hard to stick these down by hand one at a time. If you take your time, it's not a big deal. Okay, so let me take a look here. I mean, and you can always pick these up and move them around a little bit, but this thing is squeaky. That one looks pretty good. I'm going to take my little thing here. I also try to put these on different angles so that they're not all straight up and down. And this one got a little messed up, so I'm just going to pick it up. So I also don't want this one at the same height this one is. And I think they're kind of close, so I might pick this one up and move it down a little bit. Alright, so get this last one done. I'm going to put all these offsets to the side for when I'm to that point. I have all of my Peekaboo parts put down. Next thing I need to do, I leave my handle glittered. I don't paint it. So I need to cover that up so that it doesn't get paint on it. So I take some painter's tape. This one is frog tape. It's a thick roll. And then I just take a piece off. I start in the middle. And I just wrap the handle. It's a really big piece, so I'm going to stick a piece over there. It doesn't have to be perfect, obviously, but you just don't want any paint to get on it. So I'm just going to push that down there. I'm sure there's probably a better way than this, but this is the way that I do it. And then I rip that piece in half. Now when I get down to the bottom, that's kind of where you want to be. Like, where do I want this to go? And you kind of have to cut littler pieces to make it, because you don't want it to be ugly at the bottom. And yeah, if somebody else has a better way of doing this, let me know, because it's not my favorite job. I mean, I suppose I could use skinnier tape on the ends, which I might do. So let me just get this part wrapped up. I'll try some smaller tape, perhaps, this time around on the ends and see if that helps the situation. I gotta make sure this part underneath is covered up and I'm not going to get any paint on there. So I'm just wrapping the handle. I'm going to check underneath to make sure under here, to make sure that there's no glitter showing through. Let me try my skinnier tape here. I do have a smaller one. I got this really skinny tape. This is hard to find. I got it from Amazon. Let me try some of that. I don't like to use it that much because it's hard to find. I'm going to try it. See if I like that. Take a piece here. And wherever obviously this tape is on this handle, yeah, that skinnier tape works better. So I would suggest using the skinniest tape that you have for the edges. This is the part where you really want to take your time because you don't want the edges of your handle to look bad, and you don't want the paint to go up in there, so you want to push that tape down really well. I'll just use another piece of this to cover this up. Sometimes too, when you paint, this tape will start to come up, so you want to make sure you have a couple of layers down. Put some more around the bottom of this one. So here we are, late at night in the darkness of my gross garage. And I'm going to spray paint this cup and prepare it to Peekaboo. So I'm using 3 different kinds of paint. The first one is just a white primer. You can use white spray paint too. I kind of use them interchangeably, but I always try to use Rustoleum if I can. I like the coverage on it much better than Krylon. This right here is called a Comfort Grip. You can get it at Walmart. It comes off of the paint cans. You can use it for any kind of spray paint can. It controls your sprays. It makes your paint come out more evenly. It's like $5, $6. Highly recommend getting one of these. So I'm going to be using this to switch off on all the different paints. But the white is for the main part of the cup. And then we've got an Aqua. I try to buy Satin if I can, Satin paint. But I've used gloss, I've used matte. I mean, it doesn't really matter. Gloss sometimes dries with runs in it a lot more than Satin paint does, so I kind of prefer Satin or matte. But hey, if you can't get it, get a gloss. But this one is the Aqua Satin. Rustoleum. And then I also use a little bit of this pink satin, which is called Sweet Pea. If you can tell here out in the garage too, especially with the light, you can see the pink undertones. That's why I use the rose gold vinyl too. It kind of pulls out that pink in the glitter. So I spray just a tiny amount on it, just kind of pull that pink out. So we're going to start with the white, obviously, and we're going to spray the whole cup white. Now be careful, because I have this on a stick that's got like padding on it. I have dumped these on the floor before, so I'm kind of going to be careful here. And make sure I'm not putting it straight down when I paint it. Now I wrapped that handle, so it should be good. Now with a Peekaboo, you're going to want to make sure, again, you make that epoxy as smooth as you can, because you'll probably still have a few things that show, but that's just kind of the nature of it. But if you make it as smooth as you can before you start, you're not going to have a lot of nasty little things in there. And I wrapped my handle so I can just spray. It really doesn't matter. And if I get a little bit on my handle, I can take some acetone or something, some alcohol, wipe it off. But, you know, I don't want to be wiping that entire handle off when I'm done, so. I tend to spray little light amounts, and then, That way you don't get drips. Okay, and then I'm just going to let that dry for a couple minutes, and I'm going to hit it again with the white to make sure it's good and covered in white. Then we will move on. Okay, back I got my 2 coats of white. I made sure that I covered my decal. You see how you can still see it? There's really not a need for me to put hot glue dots or anything like that. I can still see them. So I just made sure I covered all of my areas. Still have like a couple, I mean, you still see little tiny bumps. It's like impossible to get it like ultra super smooth. But when you epoxy over this, you won't be able to see it. So I've got my Aqua, and I'm going to do some spritzes of the blue. I mean, this is not science here. I'm just kind of placing it, you know, different spots. You're not doing kind of a solid thing here. Doesn't matter how low you take it, how high you take it. I like to take mine down into the decals a little. Gives it a little bit of interest. You don't have to do more than 1 coat here of the blue. But you know, you can play around with it. Do what you like. Do a couple splurts in the middle if you want. I think I might do that. Let me see. Take a look here. I kind of like it the way it is. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to come in with the pink next. And I'm going to do some very light pink spurts. And I can always come back and fine tune it. I'm going to grab my pink. See, I'm just switching out that comfort grip. And I got my pink, and I'm just going to do some light squirts of pink in there on the bottom. And a lot of times I'll go back with the blue over the pink because I don't want it that heavy. You can see it's a little bit strong now, but I'll go back and hit that with the blue again. But I do want that kind of faint pink there so that it shows in the glitter. So I just sprayed it in different spots. Then I think I'm going to come back with a little bit of white, actually, to kind of tone it down just a little tiny bit. So like I said, just play around with it and get it to kind of the intensity that you want. I'm hitting that pink with a little bit of white. That gives you kind of an idea. It's too strong if you hit it with a little bit of white. You see it makes it a little less out there. I'm going to come back with a little more blue. Head out here. And the further you hold it away from your spray, it also kind of gives you that wisp effect. Not so strong. So basically, I kind of cover the pink up, but I get like a really lightish, it's hard to see in this light, but you get a really light pink showing through the blue. pretty much happy with that. Let me put a little more on the bottom. It's a lot of like fine tuning to what you want between the amount of blue that you'd like and the if I see a spot I feel like needs more blue, I'll come back at it. It's just kind of switching back and forth, so I'll play with this for a few minutes until I get what I want. What I'm going to do now is bring this back inside, let it dry. I'll show you in the light a little better, and then we'll start peeling the decals. So I'm back. I've let this dry just for a few minutes. I don't like to let it fully dry when I pull the Peekaboo because I don't want the paint to kind of crack. So I let it dry enough that I can touch it, and you know, I'm going to be careful about this, but I'm going to go and start to pick at it with my weeding pin here. Try to take off as much at once as I can. It's a slow process. You want to be careful. Take your time. Definitely, especially with the weeding pin, you don't want to throw your pin across the paint that you just took all this time to put down. And I could stick my tweezers in here if I have a piece that's up enough. Kind of pull it, but I don't want to touch that paint. It's around it, but see how I'm able to almost pull this entire piece off. See? Trying to keep it connected so I don't have to deal with the smaller pieces. I'll just pull that up carefully. I can touch my handle. I keep forgetting about that. That's the benefit of covering your handle up. You can kind of use that for leverage. When you have a regular one, you kind of have nothing to grab onto. Okay. Yeah, I've got this little piece here. See, I'm getting there. I've got this little piece here that I'm going to pick under with my weeding pin. Go back with the tweezers. Be patient. Sometimes I just use my nails to pick at it. I don't want to do that too much because I don't want to mess up my paint. There we go. Pick that off. Since my paint's kind of still damp, I'm going to get some beautiful stuff like that on my hands probably. But that's fine. Be careful messing up my paint. I had one little spot on this one, but what I can do is just take my dental pick where the paint kind of got under there. Blow it away. Scrape it off. That's better. Let's see if I can get it focused for you. See? There it is. I will just continue weeding this all the way around. I won't make you watch it, and then we'll come back and then I'll let you know what to do next. And we're back. I have added 1 coat of epoxy on top of that Peekaboo layer, and it's smooth. So as long as it's smooth after that 1 coat, you can carry on with the next part, which is adding those offsets. And then I have like the little mini metallic snowflakes that I put on there. What I do now though, before I do anything else, is clean this part of the cup so that I don't forget later. It's kind of just something I do now. So I have a little cheap razor blade thing. I think I got this particular one from Walmart, but you can get them from Amazon too. I have this one too. I got from Amazon. I just buy the loose razor blades and you change them and pop them out. So I take it along the rim and I just run it on the top just to get off any extra little pieces of epoxy and things, little lumps that may be in there, especially with the glitter. If you use a lot of chunky up in that area, you're gonna want to get that off. Of course, I already kind of did that with the sanding down and such, so I don't have much glitter in the way. I just kind of am cleaning up the paint. Might do that a little bit more. And then, so I've got like no weird pieces in there. People always ask me about my nails, how I keep them from getting destroyed. Well, whenever I use acetone, I try to use nitrile gloves, and I have this glove that I got at Walmart that's dipped in nitrile stuff. So I just put one of them on. It's my acetone on a cotton ball. And I'm just gonna wipe away spray paint that I've got in here. Just wiping the inside of the cup. I'm sure most of you guys already know this information, but this is the time that I choose to clean it up. I have a tendency, once I get going, to get it like on its last coat, and then I look at the rim and it looks awful. I don't want to do that, so. When I send my cups out, I will clean the inside out with lemon oil. Also, that, I'll show you that. Gives it a nice smell, and that also cleans. I got this from Amazon. It also cleans up paint and stuff. I think acetone's a bit stronger, but lemon oil will clean up some of it. And also it makes the cup smell nice. Which I got that tip from Miss Beth Cumber at Midlands Vinyl. Alright, that's pretty clean. Looks pretty good. Got my rim cleaned up. Okay, so here we are to the tedious part. We've got the cup cleaned out. We are going to lay down those offsets. Sometimes this can be a pain, so I like to wet method it. If you don't know what wet method is, it's when you put your decal on the transfer paper like normal, and then you have just a spray bottle. Here I have a spray bottle with a couple of drops of Dawn dish soap and water, and you spray the back of your decal, you spray your cup, and that way if you mess the decal up, you can pick it up and lift it and move it around as you place it, so it's not just stuck to the cup. It makes things a lot easier. It also eliminates bubbles. So I have glitter all over me, of course. You always have glitter all over you, all over my phone. So we're going to go ahead and get started on the offset. I've already kind of placed my decals on some transfer paper, so I am going to start with this one. Now sometimes these metallics can be finicky and not want to peel. I don't like to use the strong grip unless I have to. So sometimes with these you have to just be slow and really rub them in. Rub the decal into your transfer paper. And if it doesn't want to come off the first time, you just take your scraper and go off to the side and scrape it for a little bit. Most of the time I can finagle them off. Metallic can be finicky that way. The reason why I don't like to use the strong grip is it's tacky. It's really tacky, and so you'll get the with the wet method, it's not the best to use. First thing in the morning, this one's going to be not so nice, but take your time with it. It's not like I'm weeding the world's most complicated item here, so it'll be fine. Okay, I've got my decal off. I'm going to take my water with a little bit of soap, spray the back of the paper, and then I'm just going to put my cup in my lap. I have one of those things that you put it on to do decals, but I like my lap. So I'm just going to line it up to where my Peekaboo is. Sometimes some of these shapes fit better on others. You can kind of tell when you rotate it around. That's another thing, since these are, you'd think they're symmetrical, but no, they're not. Some of them are smaller than others. It's okay, you can make adjustments. See, I'm messing all kinds of stuff up here. That's okay, because I can pick it up. And you can also pick it up when you're done, which I almost always have to with these things. Trying to decide which one goes best with what. How about we just lay this down, pick it up, move it around. That's generally what I end up doing anyway. I'll get it pretty well on it, like 2 or 3 of them, and then I will go in and maneuver it. See, it's not perfect. It's off right now in some spots. That's okay, because what I'm going to do now is take a paper towel or a coffee filter if I have one around, but with this I'm not really worried about it because I'm just scraping the water out, squishing it out. You want to squish the water out of the paper. You'll feel it start coming out the sides, and just wipe it. It's going to stick a little bit probably, but this one's coming off pretty well. And I'm going to make some adjustments anyway. Normally I like to use some paper tape, but I can't see as well with this. I'm going to go back in here and grab my dental pick. Favorite tool again. I'm going to make some adjustments. I can pick it right back up. Because it's wet, see, I'm able to pick it up and maneuver it around the way that I want to maneuver it and get it to fit exactly where I want it to go. This part takes a little bit of patience and a little bit of time. This cup is not for someone who wants something done quickly. It's a lot of steps. That's part of kind of the beauty of the layering in this cup too. So if you do want to layer a cup, it's going to take you a little while because you got to throw some coats of epoxy on it. You can't just do the illusion of layers with one coat. You need actual layers. It's just the way it is. Right. There we go. I fixed that one. Now let's go in. See, I fixed the top one. It's kind of hard to see in this light today. The sun. Fix that one. Okay. Finagling this for a little bit. I've got it on there. I'm just going to run through. Got my 2 pieces of transfer paper. I like to put on top of my work, and then I just run my dental pick over it to push it down, smooth it out. Of course, metallic at this point, it's going to show every little thing. So I always go back with a little alcohol and wipe it off, make sure that there's nothing. There we are. Da-da-da. After some finagling. So let's move on to this little guy here. And that one, my focus is hello, focus. There you go. That one's done. I'll go back and hit this one here. Same idea, just line them up. And then I'm going to redo this one, and then I'll come back with the little snowflakes for you. Okay, so I spared you the excitement of watching me put on every single one of these offsets, but they are done. I went back with my 2 little pieces of transfer paper and rubbed over them again to make sure that they were down really well, because the last thing you want when you're epoxying is for those to pop out of place. And all I did off camera was just add these little guys here. They're just kind of a detailed snowflake. And I can add that file to my Etsy store as well, but you could also just find your own and put it on there. They vary in size from like 1 1/4 inch to 1 3/4 inches. I just kind of change the size, and I always put one on the bottom. So we're almost done. I'm going to put this on the turner and add some epoxy and sprinkle a little bit more of those 2 glitters we used in the beginning. Well, the 1 glitter we used in the beginning, and plus 1 more, and I will show you that next. Okay guys, so I have the cup on the turner now. I put a coat of epoxy on it, and I'm ready to kind of add the little extra glitters on top. But first I'm just going to spritz the whole cup with alcohol. Normally I use a torch, but when I deal with metallic, a lot of times, and a lot of people don't know this, but your metallic, you think it gets messed up. Well, it does, because if you heat it with your torch, it's going to get warped. So when I'm using metallics, especially like on a decal, like I have one over here, let me show you. If you have a decal or something that's got metallic in it, this one's like an opal. I mean, they don't warp as much, but this one's got metallic behind it. I hit that with a little bit of alcohol, and I torched the rest of this cup. So normally I will torch around it, but this one has so much metallic on it that I just hit the whole cup with alcohol, and I'm gonna let it spin for a minute while I'm talking. And that way I'm not warping my metallic, and it gets rid of the bubbles. Now I do see a few near the handle. I'm gonna probably hit it again a lot of times. And I do this with molds too. If you put alcohol on your molds before you pour, you will pop the bubbles when you pour the resin in. And then if you hit it on the top, after you pour the resin, it'll get rid of the bubbles. All right, so I'm just gonna let this spin for 1 more minute. Okay, so the 2 glitters that I'm gonna sprinkle on top, just lightly, are from Glitterful. They are sponsoring this video, and they are just the most awesome glitter company. Highly recommend their glitter. Great coverage, and it's a really good price for a quality product. So I definitely recommend you check them out. This one is called Duke, and this is the one that I covered the bottom of the cup, the base of the cup with. And then I'm going to use one called Little Lady. And it's like a pink-ish, because I like to pull that little bit of pink out of that's in the Duke and that's in the metallic. So I'm just going to take some of this and put it in my hand and start sprinkling it, which is going to be fun when I'm trying to hold this phone. So let me see how that works out. Okay, so there's not really a rhyme or reason with this. I just take a little bit in my hand and just kind of right over the decal, because you want that kind of that depth, that layering effect. And I just kind of put it where I think it'll look good. I mean, and Duke has kind of, like I said, a bit of a pink shift to it, which is why I like putting the Little Lady with it. And you'll see that in a minute when I put them together. Put some on top. Make sure I hit over the decals so that makes them look layered. Of course they are layered, but it makes them just kind of have that extra bit of pop to them. Don't forget your bottom, which, yeah. Sometimes I will just take it off and throw some on the bottom, which I will probably do right now. Okay, so I'm going to go in now with that pinkish little lady and sprinkle a little bit of that on there. I kind of try and keep that a little lighter than the Duke. I just have to throw a little bit of pink. I mean, because I put those little spurts of pink spray paint, and they seem kind of bright when you spray them, but then when you cover them with epoxy, they're pretty subtle. You see, you have a little bit of pink here and there. So I want to pull that out in the glitter, you know, with the vinyl and that little spritz of pink spray paint. Now I'm going to pull it out with the glitter, this little lady. So let me sprinkle some of that on there. Okay, so pretty much we're at the end here. Added that little bit of little lady. It's got kind of like a light pink, little bit of a shift to it. Pulls out the pink and the glitter. Just a little, as if you see, I have more Duke than little lady on there, but just a little bit here and there. Put some on my bottom. And now at this point, you're pretty much in the home stretch. So when this is dry in the morning, I am going to go back and add probably at least one more coat, probably two, because I'm obnoxious with my epoxy. I've said that a million times. And then this one will be done. And when it's done, I will come back and give you a final look at it. Here we are. We've got our final product. I did 2 thin coats of epoxy on top of that decal and glitter to make sure that little extra glitter got covered up. None was popping through, but there's Snowflake Peekaboo. And I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. I will come around for the next one. I'll see you next time.